Welcome back to Funky Politics, powered by the Kazuki Network. Of course, I am DC, your host of this wonderful program. I want to welcome all of my funk ministers and my funk mistresses. Well, not mistresses in the real term, but you get my point. Welcome to Funky Politics Land. We got a lot of show planned for you today. I want you to just strap in, sit there, get you some Java, or if you like me, it's get you a drink. It doesn't matter. Hey, somewhere in this time of day, I'm sure somewhere in the world it's got to be happy hour. Got to be. I'm hoping it is. But anyway, well, speaking of the world, who hasn't seen that despicable video of those gangster Chinese residents who were beating those brothers, those African brothers who were in Guangzhou? And the whole premise is that some of those residents in Guangzhou believed that these young men broke curfew and that some kind of way they extended the quarantine period for everybody by introducing the virus to some other people. That's probably the furthest thing from the truth. It's known how this virus got started. COVID-19 got started. We know it started in Wuhan province. And of course, it spread, right? But they were very, very unfair. They're very racist about it. As a matter of fact, they began evicting some of these brothers out of their apartments, out of their hotels. Of all places, hell, even McDonald's. They couldn't go to McDonald's, right? And so Beijing, the Communist Party that rules China, and that's right, the Communist Republic of China. Not all Chinese residents are, I'm sure, really happy with the rule of the Communist Party, but hey, that's what they're living under right now. But anyway, so Beijing has decided to investigate. We'll see what happens. I'm going to tell you right now, I need my knockoff stuff. So it's not Gucci. It might just be Uchi, but I just put the G on it when they get over here to America. But now if I got to go get my stuff and they try to beat me, I'm about to put them hands on them, bro. I'm not going out like that. I'm just going to tell you. But anyway, jumping away from China, Tara Reid. This piece with Tara Reid is not going to go away anytime soon. Tara Reid's a young lady who was a Senate aide for Senator at the time, Joe Biden, out of Delaware. And the premise of it is that she says that Joe Biden took proclivities with her. He touched her inappropriately. There was sexual harassment. But she now says that when she filed a report to her knowledge, that she did not say sexual harassment. She did not say sexual assault. But now, since 93, she is saying that she believes it rose to the level of sexual assault and sexual harassment. And of course, Vice President Biden, former Vice President Biden, is asking the Senate Secretary to release those personnel files out of his office. Well, guess what? The Senate Secretary said, no, it's not going to happen. We've got case law to say that we don't have to do this. Of course, you know what, folks? They're leaving him out there on a hot dog stand. But again, it's a he say, she say kind of deal right there. All I say right now is I think Joe Biden has to pick a vice presidential candidate who has some star power, who can convince women around the country, be they independents or be they moderate Republicans, but especially Democrats, that he is still for women. And I think he is. I think this is going to be a blip on the radar. I do believe you have to believe people until they are proven otherwise. So I'll say this. Think about it. Maybe, possibly, we could even be seeing a Hillary Clinton reprisal. Don't know. We'll stick around and see what happens. Also, to my protesting brothers and sisters in Cali, in Ohio, Tennessee, and especially Michigan, I think where Governor Whitmer, I think this thing has gotten personal. I believe a lot of these protesters are being supported by some of these conservative PACs, and they believe that Governor Whitmer is going to be the choice for vice president. So, of course, guess what this does? Protesting in her capital city, in Lansing, protesting on the steps, trying to bring all of this negative attention to her orders of lockdown for the state of Michigan. Well, Michiganders are dying, and she's only doing what she believes is right. Right. So I believe it's personal. I don't believe it's just I want to protest for the right. And, Dr. King said it better than anybody. He said, I read somewhere that the greatness of America is a right to protest for right. We believe that. But I believe if they were right, they would understand that this isn't that answer. This isn't the answer to go with guns. I remember when in the 68, the civil rights movement, folks were protesting. I saw no one with a gun. I saw no one with a bayonet. I saw no one carrying around the conservative banner saying, hey, look, folks, we're here because we hate this, we hate that. No, those folks were out there. They were protesting for what they thought was right. I'm not so sure the protesters right now are fighting for what's right. I think it's political. I really believe it's political. On another note, congrats to none other than Anderson Cooper. Anderson Cooper and his partner have welcomed a newborn son, Wyatt Morgan. Shout out, brother. Let me tell you right now, diapers, wipes, and milk are extremely high. The highest giraffes' asses. And I'm gonna tell you right now, good luck with all that, brother, because you're going. What this? But now this kid's Gloria Vanderbilt's kid. Oh, I'm sorry, he's got the money. Anyway, speaking of money, on today's program, we have none other than Taneshia Nash Laird, who's the president and CEO of the Newark Symphony Hall. She's the founder of Legacy Business Advisors. She's co-founder of Mist Harlem and Entertainment Center in New York. She's was a grant panelist appointee under the Obama administration to the National Endowment for the Arts, past senior administrative official with the city of Trenton, New Jersey, and mother. Wow, when I tell you that this sister, this deep sister, I mean the symphony, man, I need to hear some music. You know, music soothes the beast in us all. So when we come back, we're going to have none other than Taneshia Nash Laird on our program on Funky Politics. And guess what? You better stick around. The sister's deep. We'll be right back. And we are back with Funky Politics and my very special guest, Taneshia Nash Laird. How are you? Welcome to Funky P.
Thank you so much. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Yes. You know, we were talking a little bit offline about the travails of the state of New Jersey, and I know it's tough up there. I know, but let's talk about before we get into that COVID piece, and I want to go there. Let's talk about your journey. You've not life hadn't always been a crystal stair, has it?
No. I guess, to talk about the past 7 years, I was widowed suddenly, unexpectedly, with my two little girls who are now 10 and 13, but at the time they were almost 3 and 6.
Hmm.
But you know what? I had to become from the secondary wage earner, what I call supplemental wage earner,
Sure.
to the head of household. And here I am, right? I'm the president and CEO of Newark Symphony Hall. And I'm really excited and really pleased to be able to be in this role to make an impact in the community.
But I mean, but you've done so much more, though. I mean, not only missed, but I mean, you know, advocacy. I mean, you've been an advocate. Don't downplay this thing, now, sister.
Well,
I done
it's
promise these
funny.
folks I got somebody here that's doing more than bringing shotguns.
I've done a lot. It's funny because it's only when you have to write your own bio that you realize how much you've done. But I just go, it's because I'm old, so I've been
Oh
around for a
Lord,
while.
this woman ain't old. I'm old. I got some socks older than you. What you talking about? You old? Man, I
I've been
got socks old.
around for a while, but you said it already in the
Yeah.
introduction earlier. I was a city official, so I've been in the public sector. I've been the nonprofit sector. I've been in the private sector. So I've pretty much done all of the segments. What they call it, I'm a tri-sector professional, right? Public,
Wow.
private, and nonprofit.
And you're right there in the midst of Princeton, you know, Princeton, New Jersey. So you're just a stone's throw from the campus, no doubt, right?
I am. I'm less than 10 minutes away inside
Wow.
the campus. And it's an interesting place to live.
I bet. I bet. You know, Trenton, Newark, and a host of other urban cores in our country, um, especially the under-resourced communities. I mean, they're not always a part of this of the arts community in terms of planning. How, when, and why? How do their desires fit into this narrative that you're trying to set, especially in your community right now?
That's a great question, and you're right that in terms of the organized planning, the community itself might not be a part of it, but the artists, without being part of this
Sure.
organized planning community, they create, and that's what's amazing and great about it. But we've always done that, right?
Yeah.
We've always done that.
So you know, Tanisha, in your city and with the organization with the symphony, are your musicians, are your artists, are they in the community? And I hate to say Princeton because it just has this aura about it that, oh my God, Princeton. But now you do have an large underserved community in that area, right?
Well, yeah. So I live in Princeton, I work in Newark, and you're right. In both communities, there is what I would consider the marginalized
Yeah.
and invisible. In fact, I was prior to being president and CEO of Newark Symphony Hall, I was the executive director of the Arts Council of Princeton, and submitted a failed proposal, but I thought it was a pretty good proposal to the Bloomberg Philanthropies to do an arts project that illuminated what I called invisible Princeton. Because Princeton, believe it or not, although it is a very wealthy community, has its lowest, what they call quartile, the lowest 25% of Princeton is actually poorer than Trenton and Newark. And so a lot
What?
of people, absolutely, absolutely. And so it is what, they generally call the underclass. I don't like that
Sure.
because,
Yeah.
if you say that, I mean, I really grew up in that underclass. My
Sure.
mother came to New York to be the help in another very wealthy area, Westchester County. She came to New York to be a maid in Scarsdale. And so she was invisible. And so these are the sort of people that are invisible. It's what drives my work. It is what drove me to leave here and to commute to Newark, because I thought that I had some skills that were applicable to what Newark was seeking to do, particularly with Newark Symphony Hall. And I'm glad you brought up the symphony, because we are no longer the home of the symphony. So Newark Symphony Hall was the home of the ballet, the symphony, and the opera. And unfortunately, after the uprisings in the city, the exodus of a lot of things in the city, there was a move of all of those institutions as in residence performers and presenters to another facility. But we are, I think, on the upswing. I'm going to keep that optimism despite the
Sure.
fact that we have what's going on now with a global pandemic, and it's great.
Well, and let's talk about this global pandemic. There is no secret to it. There's no doubt about it. Our country our world has faced something that I'm pretty sure. I think the data will show that we've not been prepared for. But I say this to a lot of people: tragedy, especially when it comes to COVID-19, it seems to be the great equalizer. I mean, the rich, the poor, the have-nots. But how has it manifested itself in your community? I mean, have the nonprofits been swollen with donations and volunteers, people trying to step up and saying, hey, look, we've got to help take care of the least of mine, because there's a lot of folks out here that need to go to the food pantry, that they don't have the resources. There's a lot of people that are already under resourced, right? And I
Right.
think that's what we were just
So
talking about. What do we
that
do?
exactly right. And so that's why I'm going to challenge your premise about this being the great equalizer. Absolutely not.
Oh,
We are, unfortunately, Black folks, we are the most vulnerable. We're the
mm,
most vulnerable and people of color because of the positions that we hold. And so I do not think that it is an equalizer. I think that it is amplifies pre-existing marginalization of us as a community. When you talk about why we are, I read something that said, oh, it's because we have underlying health conditions. That is accurate, right? So
yeah,
in Newark, the kids in Newark have 4 times the national average of asthma. But I would say that's probably because of institutional racism, right? And
yeah,
environmental racism and those sort of conditions in the environment that cause that. It was nothing we're not inherently predisposed to have asthma. Additionally, we are over indexed in Newark with
mm,
every chronic illness you can possibly think of. So I would also say that when you look at the people who have to continue to work, who are they?
mm,
The New York Times did a story the other day that talked about the people in the hospital that nobody's talking about. We're talking about the people in the hospitals who typically have the lowest wage positions in those hospitals, and they're dying. So there was an article that talked about how the people that were handing out the masks in the hospital, they're
oh, I read that.
dead.
I read that.
They're dead,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So all of the people who, if you saw pictures of again in the New York Times of people taking the subway, we are all in Newark. If you look at the people who have to take the buses to their jobs, it's us. It's us. We don't have the luxury to do social distancing, most of us, right?
Yeah.
So that in and of itself is the problem. And so this idea of opening back up the community, and I'm actually the mayor appointed me on a task force to look at what it's going to take to open up. These are all of the things that we have to consider as we're thinking about reopening the community. So that was a long way of saying I don't agree with you.
Amen. Look, that's why this is funky politics. It's funky because, number one, not because I smell bad, but because we bring those issues out that nobody wants to say, nobody wants to talk about. But I had to challenge you on that, and I'm glad that we've got. Look, I believe you. You've convinced me not to use that anymore. I'm not going to say it's an equalizer because you're right. We were marginalized already, so we were. It was an imbalance in the first damn place before we even started this thing, right?
Right.
So I'm talking about the arts community because you're still in that space, you're still in that work. What does it look like when we finally get a hold of COVID-19, this pandemic? What does it look like?
That's a really good question. It's unclear, right? So it's unclear what the arts community is going to look like. Again, with the caveat being, we as a people of color, we're going to continue to create, right? But will we be able to still have the financial support that we had before this? Before COVID-19, I was celebrating that I raised my first 7 figures in my first year at Newark Symphony Hall. Now, let's be clear, my goal is to raise 40 million, but it was a psychological barrier that I had, or a psychological goal that I said, if I raise more than $1 million in my first year, I know I'm gonna get this going, right? Now it's unclear whether or not I can continue that path of raising money for several reasons, because we don't know what the live entertainment industry is going to look like. Are people going to feel safe to do any kind of public assembly? I mean, it's clear that there are some people in Florida who have no problem going to the beach, but they don't really, unless they're out in the sun for a very long time, they don't really look like us, right? So we don't know what this is going to look like. But what I'm heartened by is the fact that creativity has not stopped. What I'm concerned about is the institutional investment in our creativity. So I'm not sure. However, Newark, how are we doing? One thing I will say is that everybody has coalesced. We, as Newark Symphony Hall, have launched an initiative that we haven't officially announced yet. So you're going to get the inside scoop. We're calling it Embrace Newark, #Embrace Newark. But in a sense, we've pivoted to support those essential services. So we're doing food. We had 9,000 pieces of personal protective masks. We actually had tens of thousands of pieces. We had 9,000 pieces of N95 masks in storage. And I was able, and I was able to provide that to the mayor and to the city. Why did you have 10,000 pieces of PPE, Taneshia? Well, because after 9/11, because of our sheer size, our complex is 200,000 square feet. Our ballroom capacity is 1,500. Our concert hall seats 2,800. Because of our sheer capacity, just of our ballroom alone, not counting our parking lot, we were deemed by the Office of Emergency Management an emergency triage location. So we've had those materials in storage probably since 2004. And I don't think anybody remembered that we had them.
10,000 in, and we're not talking about the little blue mask that I keep in my car with me.
You're talking about
the ones with the filter piece.
With the filter.
Oh my God.
Absolutely. And so I contacted our congressman about Congressman Payne, I got to give him a shout out, about getting some more, because he is, I think he actually chairs that committee in Congress. So we're talking about getting some more as well. But yes, and in addition to that, I'm hiring poets. I'm hiring photographers. I'm hiring, because this also has to be, how can I support the arts community? Too often we're seeing people say, well, so-and-so is willing to volunteer, such and such is willing to volunteer. I'm saying, absolutely not. I want to pay people.
Yes. People have got to earn, they've got to make a living. They still have to make a living. Yeah, we love volunteers, but it'd be a lot better to see a check come in the mail, right?
Absolutely.
You know, as we're talking about this poverty piece here, you know, it's been around some time, especially in our community, African American community. But you know, we've often been taught, you know, times will get better. They will get better at some point. But you know, with the loss of jobs, with the loss of income, you know, due to this virus, how do people maintain a sense of hope in challenging times like this? How?
And that's where the arts comes in, right?
Yes.
So Mayor Baraka talked about this. He said, so I'm part of something called the Newark Alliance, and I'm part of the Newark Anchor Collaborative, right? So we're the anchor institutions, typically what they call the eds and meds, but they also, meaning the educational institutions, the universities, the hospitals in the city. But wisely, The mayor has included arts organization, entertainment organizations as well, such as the Prudential Center, which is a big arena, NJPAC, which is an entertainment complex that's about 20 years old, and then ours. And so in that conversation, he talked about how he has these daily briefings where he's unfortunately giving about the numbers. And again, we have the worst numbers in New Jersey. My own staff members have lost family members.
Lord.
My staff members. How did I find out? Oh, hey, so-and-so, I thought you had a good weekend. No, unfortunately, my uncle died. No, unfortunately, my cousin died, 42 years old, several of them. And I bet if I continue to call, I will find out even more, or ask, I will find out more. But at the end of it, he goes, I always seek to end with a poem. Mayor Baraka now, just so you know, I don't know if you realize, Mayor Baraka is an artist, right?
Oh.
He's a poet.
Yes.
His father is Amiri Baraka. Mayor Baraka was part of the unofficial member of the Fugees. He was on Lauryn Hill's album.
Yes,
so he ends every briefing where he has to give this really dismal information with poetry, and he says it's for hope. And so I really think that the arts community is the community that's going to provide the hope that we need. And that we as Black folks, we've done this our entire time we've been on this land.
Yeah. Hope has been the word. Even Barack Obama's campaign, right? Hope. I mean, that's all a lot of us have ever had, was just sheer hope.
Absolutely.
Hope for a better day. Hope that my kids will have a better life than myself. Hope for mama gonna be okay, even though I got to go away to school. So hope.
In times of crisis, I saw this quote, in times of crisis, artists are called upon to do three things: to provide communication, which we, again, just go back to the times when we were in bondage. We use singing, right?
That's
to
right.
tell
That's
people
right.
when to go, when not to go.
That's right.
Connectivity and hope. So that's what the arts can do: communication, connectivity, and hope.
Boy, I tell you, we're having a great conversation here. That's why Funky Politics is a platform for us to get people like you who can spread the good news. We have so much bad news, and I'm not even talking about 45 right now, Lord. We're gonna let him stay where he at. But there's so much bad news coming out of DC, out of some of these other state capitals, that to hear somebody with an encouraging word, Taneshia, with an encouraging word, and I like that. If I get nothing else out of it, it's hope. Thank you for reminding us about hope.
And thank you for this platform, because I am not what you would traditionally think would be a guest on a political show. So I just want to thank you as well.
But on this show, on Funky Politics, we talk to everybody, and I'm glad our show is of such where we can have folks in your sphere because guess what? Arts and how it's made up is political, because guess what? We want to make sure that we get the right dollars in our community, because we need artists. We need paid artists, right? Tanisha, we need paid artists.
Absolutely. Pay the artists.
Yes, pay them artists.
They can't live on exposure.
No, they can't. And speaking of political people, Governor Murphy, I think what I've seen of your governor in New Jersey, I'm really, really impressed. This is a man who's was battling cancer.
Yes.
I think was on his recovery bed. He got up and he did what he was elected to do, which was to lead. I oftentimes hear about the New Jersey, New York kind of battle here and so forth. But are you all surprised that there seems to be a real great collaboration with Governor Cuomo and Governor Murphy, not just because they're Democrats, but because, and you guys really share a major, major border, of course. New Jersey couldn't be New Jersey without being New York, right? So are you all surprised by this new collaboration, so to speak?
Absolutely not. I'm not surprised. I'm going to say the analogy is, again, Mayor Baraka, right? So Mayor Baraka has Newark, and then there's the oranges. So there's East Orange, West Orange, South Orange. And what they all had to do for the same reason was come together, because when Newark was on lockdown, the oranges folks, mayors, were like, well, there's a lot of Newarkers coming into to the orange. They said, well, you should lock down too. So they all collaborated. I think taking it back to the state level, I'm very impressed with what Governor Murphy is doing. But I voted for him, so I don't know.
Yeah, you can say that.
I probably shouldn't. My kids love him because his wife's chief of staff invited us to a private gathering at the
Oh,
governor's
wow.
mansion, which is right here in Princeton. So, my kids loved it because of food. They love
The
anything
foodies
with
like
food.
me. Well, we all
Yeah,
foodies.
anything that involves food, they love. But my teenager, my 13-year-old, she gave a virtual tour of the governor's mansion too. So now all her friends are, very impressed. But yes, I am really pleased with what we're doing with collaborating with the governor. Governor Cuomo has been very clear
Yeah.
about his intentions,
Yes.
and stemming and flattening the curve, I guess is
Yes.
what we say. And hopefully they do it soon, because the hardest hit area has been Queens, which is where my late husband was from. So it's
Wow.
it's so devastating to see what's happening. But yes.
Well, and I want to stay there just a second, and we're gonna get ready to get out of here. But
Mhm.
you're living in a city, or around a city, in an area
Yeah.
that's been just devastated. What, for us to even fathom, we're looking at pictures on CNN, MSNBC, hell, even Fox sometimes, of showing bodies in a U-Haul truck, refrigerating because you can't get to them to a crematorium, or you can't get them to a cemetery. Mentally, how do you all stay connected and not that crazy up there? I mean, how does it happen, Tanisha?
Um, it's actually worse than even what you described.
Oh,
So
mercy,
sometimes they're not
mercy,
refrigerated.
mercy,
Sometimes
mercy.
they're going into these in New Jersey, and I know this happened in New York as well. They've gone into assisted living places
Jesus.
and literally finding just bodies and bodies. And this happened in Trenton as well. It was recently found that a funeral home just had piles and piles of people. They were a black owned one. They were
Oh,
overwhelmed,
mercy.
overwhelmed. Again, you have to stay hopeful. When my first staff member, and this is my management team, and I'm trying not to get emotional, it's so weird,
It's okay. It's all right.
told me about the loss of the first two family members. She's since lost three. And I said, listen, you know, take it easy. Don't do anything. She said, Tanisha, and she oversees well, everything in our organizations and arts, but a particular area that is um, a community focused. And she said, I got to stay busy.
Mm,
I got to stay busy. So continuing to work, continuing to create, that is the way that we just have each other.
yeah. Yeah. But you know something though, Tanisha, the self care prior to COVID-19, even in the morning, it's changed. You couldn't even go to her house and take a cake or a pie or some food over. We can't even do that now. And you know how difficult that is for African Americans. We were brought up that way.
Absolutely.
We
But
support each other. When you lose somebody, we are there. But I can't be with you now.
But you know what's so great? I see
Mercy.
people, and my kids are upstairs, so it won't spoil the surprise. But people are saying, "Hey, your 13-year-old is going to be graduating eighth grade. We're going to do
Wow.
a drive-by, and we're going to
Wow.
park
Okay.
out, and we're going to hold up signs, and we're going to say
Yeah.
congratulations." And that's what people are doing. They've been doing it for friends who've had
Yeah.
anniversaries. I saw a video that has now probably been shared. A friend of a friend, I found out, shared tens of thousands of times online, where his own wife is in the hospital
Mm.
and he can't be with her, but he said, I'm going to still dance with her. We're going to dance via
Wow.
FaceTime. So I was like, Pops,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Wow. Isn't that
Absolutely.
something?
Hmm.
The spirit, the American spirit, I'm not going to call it black or white, but the American spirit within us is
Yes.
strong. We will recover. We will manage our way out of this. Now, and I say to people all the time, the president, it is not his fault that that COVID is existing. I do fault him for the response. We will have to hold him accountable on November 3rd, up or down. He will be held accountable November 3rd for that. But I will say this, I think we're going to be better once we come out of this, because there's some things I think we're not going to take for granted anymore. I think there's
I,
something we're
I I
not going
hope
to take for granted.
so. I hope so.
Yeah.
I am also hoping for a change in the
Yes.
White House.
Yeah.
Um, that's a whole separate call.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know a lot of people on his side of the aisle, and I keep every time he does something, I say, "Yeah, really,
Mm. Yeah.
y'all's president."
Yeah, that's
Really?
right. You have to say, am I really living in La La Land? This is anyway. Hey, you got any party before we get out? You got any parting thoughts at all? I know you don't know what your calendar is going to look like, and we don't want to date. We don't want to put a date on this thing, but we hope in the future that the work that you all have planned. I don't know if you got something in the far distant future that you're planning on. Maybe some major campaign you could share with us, and we can have you back on Funky Politics and we talk about it.
Yeah, I would welcome that. We do have some. What I will tell people to do is to go to newarksymphonyhall.org, sign up for our mailing list. Follow. We're basically Newark Symphony Hall on every platform: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Follow us and follow our programming.
Newark Symphony Hall.
That's right.
Tanisha, thank you so much for being a part of Funky Politics. When I promised our listeners that I had a firebrand, I had a sister from none other that was going to be able here to talk to us and encourage us. I don't think I let them down. Thank you so much for being with us, okay?
Thank you.
And come back and see us again on Funky Politics. I'll be back with some closing thoughts. And I'm back. We have had a wonderful opportunity to share with Taneshia Nash Laird out of Newark. Young lady is the president and CEO of the Newark Symphony Hall. I am just man. I'm on cloud nine because when I get an opportunity to talk to thought leaders who are people, and we didn't even get into her work around the National Endowment for the Arts. This sister was appointed by the Obama administration as a grants panelist, right? So she had the opportunity to sit and look at grants from all over the country, funding opportunities for artists, performers, other symphonies, and so forth, to get funding from our national government to be able to do the work that they do. We're going to keep her family. We're going to keep the citizens of New Jersey, New York, as well as citizens all over the world in our prayers, our thoughts and prayers, more or less, not our thoughts, but our prayers, because this is a time I think we all have to kind of depend on a couple of things that's inside of us. One of them is probably our belief that there is a higher power, and that whomever you call that higher power by that name, that he or she will answer. He or she will answer the call. Okay. And so in that time, I think we're going to be okay. So America, the world, I think we're going to be fine. We're going to look at November 3rd as one of those days. It's going to be it's going to be a great coming up day. All right. So remember November 3rd, 2020. He can put it off if he want to, but he got to go one day soon. He's got to get out of the White House. 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue will be vacated on January 20th, and hopefully we'll have a new person in there that responds to the calls of all Americans and people around the world for leadership, and we'll have somebody other than number 45. Other than that, we've tried to keep it real. We've always tried to keep it right, and we're going to definitely always keep it funky right here on Funky Politics. See you next time. I'm out of here.